Hello people, wake up New Zealand. We need to talk more about Communist China as it's well got its footprint into New Zealand soil. The government's allowing Communist China to make many investments into New Zealand, and it seems like a trade-off for more tourism to me. China, by the world's media, is being depicted as an evil dictatorship. So let's talk about this Falun Gong and the persecution of millions who practice this in China. So what is Falun Gong? Well, it's a meditation practice that's prescribed. It's got a prescribed set of exercises it's of a spiritual essence, using positive energy to rule out negative energy. Sounds a bit like yoga, doesn't it? A discipline combining slow movements, exercise and meditation with a moral philosophy centered on truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Don't we wish we all had more of that? Millions of innocent people in China have been fired, expelled, jailed, tortured, killed, simply for practicing this Falun Gong. The Chinese party do not want this advertised, so they're trying to protect their backs, stopping people from talking about it. We shouldn't talk about it publicly, not in New Zealand. I mean, it might actually interfere with New Zealand's free trade agreement with China. So New Zealand government wouldn't want to affect their friendship with China, would they? So here's just one story about how horrendously people are mistreated in China. It began in the middle of the night. Under a veil of darkness, police dragged ordinary people from their beds. Many were taken to holding cells, centres, jails. Others were beaten. Many died from torture. Police were being directed by Communist Party heads who ordered Falun Gong to be crushed. Hundreds of millions of people practice Falun Gong. This Communist Party want to show that it's more powerful than the practice of Falun Gong. So people need to watch this award-winning film about the persecution of Falun Gong in China. You can find it online. Just try Googling it or go on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find it. This is about the wrongful imprisonment, brainwashing sessions, torturing of thousands of people to death whilst in custody. It's estimated that more than 1 million Falun Gong practitioners have been killed for their vital organs, used to fuel a booming organ transplant business. People are really fearful of the communist regime, are being killed and tortured, are being held political prisoners. It's happening all the time, of having their bodies cruelly dissected. The Chinese government quickly, globally, has spread the rumour that these people are practicing, that practice Falun Gong of some sort of evil cult, which is absolute rubbish. The Chinese government tried to stop Roman Catholics, Protestants, Tibetan Buddhists from worshipping freely. But the thing is, that's all wrong. That's terrible. That's against people's human rights. But Falun Gong is not a religion. It's a meditation practice incorporating exercises. So forced organ harvesting is still happening. Political prisoners are being dissected, killed for their organs for huge amounts of money globally. You can order organs online, and they say it takes 1 to 4 days. So they've got to have a mass database of organ donors, live organ donors. The perpetrators are officials at the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, acting in cahoots with surgeons, prison authorities, and military officials. Victims are held in concentration camps prior to dissection, after which the body's remains are cremated. There's no evidence. However, there is evidence because human rights activists have infiltrated into these places, and they have also gone online and made out to order organs, and they have proved this all to be true. There is evidence that this is actually happening and has been happening for years now. So there is proof. Communist officials try to cover their backs. The evidence is great. It's all over the place. It's not just a little bit of evidence. There is a lot of evidence. So Chinese website boasts that they can get an organ in a week. So the donors are from political prison camps. So the Communist Party actually pulls stunts, stating that live organ harvesting is stopping, but it isn't. It's just a way that they can keep on doing what they're doing. So they even have execution vans that go around which allow for discreet executions on the go and delivery of fresh organs to hospitals. I know, it's appalling, it's horrendous, and it's hard to believe, but it's happening. So innocent people are suffering extreme torture, and it's been documented, and it's happening in jails, labour camps. There's brainwashing centres, schools in big cities, small towns, and in villages. And the torture techniques used are like shocking people with electric batons, burning them with irons, and force-feeding them with saline solutions through plastic tubes inserted up their nose, prying out fingernails. Yes, it sounds like a prisoner of war camp, doesn't it? With bamboo shoots, to name a few, rape and sexual torture whilst in detention centres. To date, thousands deaths have been documented, as well as over 63,000 accounts of torture. No one will know the actual toll suffered by innocent people, by people. It amounts to tens of thousands of people being tortured. People by the millions have been forced to surrender to Chinese communist dictatorial rule. Yes, millions of people are sitting in political prison camps, are being brainwashed, are being tortured, whilst the communist Chinese leaders wait for the money to come in from demands for organs from people globally. And there it is, all sitting on a large data bank, ready to be matched. Organs ready to be matched. Just a week's notice. People, this is genocide, dehumanization, and it's been going on for years, and it's still going on. Websites have been blocked for publicising what the Chinese communist regime evil practices, of torture and murder. And yet it still goes on. The UN have received thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures across the globe to have this stopped. They have done nothing. They do nothing. By doing nothing, they are accomplices. But our government not speaking up about it, they are accomplices. Falun Gong is a healthy, normal and positive way of life, embraced by millions. The communist regime purposely paint Falun Gong into something that is dangerous and deviant, labelling it as a cult, just to bend public opinion of themselves. They use propaganda campaigns allowing them to continue their evil, murderous live donor harvesting. Now think of these Hong Kong students in New Zealand. Should they be fearful? Of course they should be fearful. Should they protest? Of course they should protest. New Zealanders, I urge you to protest also. Protest against the communist murderous torture of innocent peoples in China. The practice of live organ donor. The donor machine, the large database that the Chinese government use to supply organs across the world for huge amounts of money to line their pockets. China has an increasing footprint in New Zealand, but so does the UN. We are governed by the UN. Our government allowed the UN to dictate to us in New Zealand. Our government is full of UN puppets, and China is getting increasing power in the UN. So, we need to look up. Communism will take over our country. I'm not saying we're going to have this Falun Gong practice and people executed and tortured and murdered in New Zealand, but none of us want the communist dictatorship here in New Zealand. At the present time, we're already having our freedom of speech limited, and people are getting visits, innocent people getting visits from the police and asked if they're voting for Trump. Young girl of 12 having a gun pointed at her by the police. Our damn political police are doing this. Now, so if you think about it, that is dictatorship. So are we already being affected by communism? I think so. Thank you, people.